let's take a second to get gritty in the big sleazy. And let's talk about a few things I don't like about the Triumph Street Scrambler. Now, in my opinion, the Street Scrambler is a near perfect bike. I mean, sure, any bike, no matter how perfect, can be improved. But, I mean, they really hit it out of the park, I think, with the Street Scrambler. So there's a few things that I'll give you that I would prefer to be different. But keep in mind, this is very subjective because what I would like might not be good for another rider. And the other best part about a lot of these complaints is they're pretty easy to address them. So first up, that I think is a little lacking in the Street Scrambler is the front end suspension. It feels a little spongy. While braking or rolling off the throttle, you get some front end dive. So, and then I also noticed it now that I live in a city where the roads are terrible, and I do feel like it kind of bounces me around a little bit. That being said, I put in some progressive springs for $79 for the pair, and it solved the issue. So, could that have been set up that way from the factory? I mean, I'm not a bike builder, so I can't tell you why bikes don't come in progressive springs versus why maybe they should, maybe they shouldn't. I don't know, but progressive springs in the front forks definitely helped the Scrambler, in my opinion. Pretty obvious improvement for, like I said, $79. So, could that have been improved from the factory? I think so. Another thing I don't like, and this is really not going to apply to probably a lot of riders. Keep in mind, I'm really nitpicking here. There's not much I really don't like about this bike, and most of the things I don't like can be changed, or like I said, maybe only apply to me and don't apply to most people that this bike is aimed for, who ride this bike. The rear brake caliper, man, that thing being below the swing arm for me, that's a bad idea. I think the bike's got the name Scrambler on it. Yes, they can always say, hey, well, we have Street in front of Scrambler, but it's still called the Scrambler. It still has a little stuff for off-roading. I don't think it would have been difficult to have that rear caliper bracket be above the swing arm instead of below the swing arm. Now, I haven't had any issues with it yet, but I have been paranoid of nailing a rock and losing my rear brake. I did try the Free Spirits rear brake caliber relocation kit, and the problem with that is, at least the one I got, and it hasn't been addressed yet by Free Spirits, is that the bracket keeps the ABS sensor too far from the ring, and I lose ABS, I lose traction control, I can lose speedometer and odometer and all that kind of stuff as well. So, I'm hoping another company maybe will come out with a bracket that works. I just wish Triumph from the factory had put the rear brake caliber above the swing arm. I think not doing that was a little bit of an oversight. Now, another thing I don't like is the cheesy graphics. It's a retro-inspired bike, but that Street Scrambler graphic, I mean, it's not the ugliest thing in the world, but it's straight out like the 90s or 2000s, and on a modern classic. I can't say that I would put it, if I was a bike designer, I wouldn't be thinking, let's put something like that on a retro inspired, retro looking motorcycle. So I don't care for the graphics. Again, this is kind of my personal opinion, but easy to take care of. For me, I put a number plate on there. You can always buy a side panel that removes that side panel and puts a different one there. British Customs has a number plate that goes in the position of that whole side panel instead of, the Triumph number plate just goes over that side panel. Either way, for me, I think that's an ugly graphic, and I was keen on covering it up, which I did. Another thing that, at first when I saw Street Scrambler, I thought the single instrument was cool, but to be honest, having dual instruments has grown on me, and I don't necessarily really actually need a tachometer. I never look at the digital tachometer, but I've been driving manual transmission cars, and this is my first motorcycle, so I mean, I've never been one to look at RPMs when I'm shifting or anything like that. it's pretty easy to know when to shift. Now I get, there's some reasons you do want to look at the RPMs, but for me, the aesthetic of having a single instrument versus having the two and having the analog tachometer, I do think the two looks better. But if Triumph had a upgrade where you could keep, you could basically turn that into you could add an analog tachometer to it, it's something I would purchase. Unfortunately, they don't currently have something like that, so you're stuck with the one instrument. Kind of wouldn't mind if the handlebars are black, but that's nitpicking quite a bit, isn't it? I mean, I try to turn them all of my stuff black, so I would appreciate if everything was black instead of silver or the gunmetal gray. I'm probably going to I might get my handlebars black powder coated. And then again, I might not. The silver doesn't bother me. I just think black would be cooler. But I'm glad it's not chrome. Chrome would have been a bad move. I don't think chrome is fitting for a scrambler. And honestly, I'm just not a big chrome guy. I wouldn't mind a higher ground clearance and more suspension travel. That being said, I'm probably not in the, I'm probably in the minority that would like that. Now, I'm tall enough that I could, bump up my seat height 2 inches, and that would be fine. So I don't really think this is a con on the bike. It's something that would be better for me if it was a little taller, had a little more suspension travel, since I do take it off-road. But I think for your average rider who's going to get the Street Scrambler, it's perfect the way it is. I think the majority of people are going to keep it on the street, and what little off-roading they do is probably going to be fire roads, pretty simple stuff. So I don't think that's really a strike against the bike, other than I would have preferred it. But it's certainly one of the great things about the bike the way it is it's pretty friendly for somebody who's not the tallest guy in the world. So Aaron has upgraded from the TU250 to a Street Scrambler, and Aaron is 5'8". He can flat foot both his feet on the Street Scrambler. Now the Scrambler that's been teased to hopefully come out next year, that I'm very interested in, not get rid of the Street Scrambler interested, but would be interested in over getting a Tiger or an Africa Twin for the around the world trip that we want to do. That way it fits the theme of my channel. I mean, Aaron is not going to be able to, someone of Aaron's height is going to have a hard time on a bike if the seat height's 33, 34 inches, 35 inches maybe. I don't know what the new Scrambler is going to be, but it definitely looks like a mixture of a Tiger and a Bonneville, and I'm expecting a seat height of above 33, 34 inches, and maybe even 35 inches. So that would be okay with me, because I could touch in my off-road boots, probably on my tippy toes, but I could touch. I'm 5'11", just for the record. But a lot of people that are shorter, I want to say somebody who's 5'4" that has a Street Scrambler. So a lot of people who are shorter, that's just going to be way too tall for them. So that's a good thing about the Street Scrambler. It's very friendly to people of all heights. But, for me, I wouldn't mind if it had a little better ground clearance and a little better suspension travel. I don't think it really matters, because if you really want that, you could get the Scrambler that will hopefully be coming out next year. So, for me, I'm not going to trade up my Street Scrambler. I'm going to keep it. Will I add the beefier Scrambler in the future? Probably, maybe. We'll see. If I win the lottery, definitely, absolutely. Otherwise, we'll have to see. I mean, like I said, I love my Street Scrambler. I wouldn't trade it for anything, but I wouldn't mind something beefier. And as far as for the round the world trip goes, it's appealing to me, because I was going to go the adventure bike route, and I still might, but there's the romantic in me that thinks it'd be really cool on a something that looks like a Bonneville. But instead of just doing it on a Bonneville, something that does have some more off-road capabilities to it. Or I guess a Ted Simon on steroids, if you will. I don't have any complaints as far as how the bike rides. Of course, it could be lighter, but anything with the name Scrambler in it could always be lighter. So, but it doesn't feel heavy, so it's not really an issue. I wouldn't mind a bigger gas tank, but then again, that'd probably spoil the look of it. So honestly, it's fine right now. I mean, I understand the engine's kind of underpowered, but with all the torque being down low, it's really fun, it's really usable, so I don't really have a complaint about the power. I wouldn't mind more power, for sure. So yeah, I mean, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. If you have a Triumph Street Scrambler, let me know in the comments below if you disagree or agree with any of my points. If there's other things that you think could have been improved in the bike as it was from the factory. Yeah, and what are your thoughts on the rumored Scrambler that's coming out next year? Interested, not interested? As always, thanks for watching. If you want to subscribe, I'd appreciate that. The goal of this channel is to get better at filming and making videos, and to eventually do a around the world trip with Caitlin and Merrick and film it and do like weekly episodes as we're traveling. So if that sounds cool to you, definitely think about subscribing. It's free, right? I'm going to be upping the quality of a lot of my videos. I just invested in a drone and a gimbal, so I won't have shaky hand shots from holding the camera. And hopefully I'll keep learning Premiere Pro and get better at that, and start actually trying to do color correction and that difficult stuff I don't really know. And next year I want to do Key West to Alaska on my Street Scrambler. So that'll be about June next year, before Caitlin and I get married. Again, if you want to come along for the ride, please subscribe. All right, take care and scramble on. And cheers. Urban South in New Orleans makes great beer. I love this beer.